Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most common and negative errors in language, in the English language, something called fragments. So fragments are unfinished thoughts, basically. They're incomplete sentences. We'll talk about the different kinds of fragments and how to fix them. So first of all, what is a fragment? It's an incomplete sentence. It's one of the a very common major error, and there are two types of fragments. One type is missing a subject and or a verb, and the other is a dependent clause by itself. Uh, Make sure before you continue that you're able to identify subjects and verbs and dependent clauses. And those are, I've got videos and lessons on those. So make sure you check those out before you continue here. So let's talk about these. So a missing subject and or a verb. This is called a phrase fragment. So for example, walking through the park on a warm summer day. That's a phrase. It's not a clause. It doesn't have a subject or verb. Same with the others. To apply for a job as an actor. The man selling flowers on the corner. You can tell all of these are incomplete because there's nobody doing anything. There's no subject and verb. Now, how do you fix these? Very simple. Just add the subject and or the verb. Whatever's missing, you add the missing part. Or you could connect it to another sentence. Phrase fragments often occur when really I've got another sentence, a complete sentence right next to it, and really the author should have connected them, but instead separated them with a period. So, for example, the first example, walking through the park on a warm summer day. I can add the subject and the complete verb. I was walking through the park on a warm summer day. Or I can take my fragment and connect it to a complete independent clause. I felt at peace. That's an independent clause. That's complete. I connect them. The comma connects them. The period separates it. So if I put a period there, it'd be a fragment, but the comma there, now it's connected. Walking through the park on a warm summer day, comma, I felt at peace. That's complete now. Same thing for all of your fragments, all your phrase fragments, same solution each time. To apply for a job as an actor, I can add the words, you need to apply for a job as an actor, or connect it to something that is already complete. To apply for a job as an actor, comma, you need an agent. So that's going to connect those. The man selling flowers on the corner. I can add the word was, now it's complete. The man was selling flowers on the corner, or I can connect it to something that completes it. The man selling flowers on the corner is my cousin Mac. All right, so that's a phrase fragment. The other kind, probably more common, is a dependent clause by itself. To recall, a clause is a group of words with a subject and verb. And a dependent clause has a dependent word at the beginning of it that renders it now no longer complete by itself. It changes an independent clause to a dependent. So just to review from a previous lesson, if I did not have the word because there, and I just said I arrived late for class, that would be complete. That would be an independent clause. But because I have this word because, this is a dependent word, now it's a dependent clause. Because I arrived late for class, now it's no longer complete by itself. And all of these are dependent clauses by themselves. When I bought my first car, although I studied very carefully for my test, the man who first invented the light bulb, which he did not understand, all of these are fragments because they have these dependent clauses by themselves. So these are very common. And to repair these, again, very simple. Just to review, sorry here, there we go. This is your list of dependent words. There's also a list in your Canvas website. And these are the words that will turn an independent clause into a dependent clause. So to fix a dependent clause fragment, easy, just eliminate the dependent word. That's one simple solution. The negative side of just eliminating the dependent word, though, is then you're left with a lot of simple sentences, simple short sentences. Dependent clauses are great to use. I love them. They show relationships between ideas. They help create better flow in your writing. So I encourage you to use dependent words. So sometimes you may need to just eliminate that word, but I prefer number 2, which is to connect the dependent clause to a complete sentence, to connect it to an independent clause, in other words. So, for example, because I arrived late for class, I could just get rid of the because. I say I arrived late for class. Now we have an independent clause. Or I could connect it to an independent clause, to something else that's independent. Because I arrived late for class, comma, I missed the test. I prefer that in general. It shows the relationship between those ideas. And now notice a couple things about these dependent clauses. In most cases, you can use the dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence. Because I arrived late for class, comma, I missed the test. So that's D, comma, I, dependent clause, comma, independent clause. There's a little equation you can memorize. I missed the test because I arrived late for class. You can do it that way too. That's ID. The dependent clause comes second. You'll notice a little punctuation thing. If the dependent clause comes first, normally you're going to have a comma. If the dependent clause comes second, normally you're not going to have the comma. All right, so these are really helpful. So this is another nice thing about these dependent clauses. They're very fluid. They can come before, they can come after. There's some flexibility there. You're able to, for different stylistic choices, put it wherever you want. So I kind of prefer those. Let's look at some other examples. When I bought my first car. So you can say, I bought my first car, now it's complete. Or I can go D, comma, I. When I bought my first car, comma, I was so happy. Or ID. I was so happy when I bought my first car. Although I studied very carefully for my test. I could just say, I studied very carefully for my test. There's an independent clause by itself. I got rid of the dependent word. Or I can connect it to something that is complete. Although I studied very carefully for my test, comma, I failed it. Now we have D, comma, I. Or the dependent clause can come at the end with no comma. I failed the test, although I studied very hard for it, ID. Now, some of these are a little different. Not all dependent clauses are exactly the same. It gets a little complicated. We don't need to worry about everything, but I'll just show you some examples. Edison first invented the light bulb. Edison was the man who first invented the light bulb. Here, the dependent clause is connected that way. The man who first invented the light bulb was America's greatest inventor. So notice the who, in this case, the who can come in the middle of the sentence. So it can come basically at the end or at the middle. It can't come at the very beginning. It wouldn't make any sense. Sometimes we use commas with these who's, sometimes we don't. Again, it gets a little complicated. We'll talk about it later in the semester. Which is another one of these. Which he did not understand. I can get rid of the which. Now it's complete. He did not understand that. Or I can put the which in here at the end. The teacher was lecturing on something which he did not understand. Or it can go in the middle. The topic which he did not understand was differential equations. So that can come there. And again, sometimes with the which, it will have a comma, sometimes not. It's a little complicated. We're not going to worry about it right now. Main thing I want you to do is to avoid fragments, avoid these dependent clauses by themselves, or phrase fragments. So fragments are incomplete sentences. You could have phrase fragments or dependent clause fragments, and they basically are a problem because they corrupt your meaning. It's not clear. For example, if you just put a dependent clause in there, it's difficult to know. Is that referring to what came before or what came after? I don't know. It's really very unclear what your meaning is. So they really interfere with your meaning, and it's a problem. So I look forward to you doing some exercises and a test coming up on this. And most importantly, I look forward to you controlling this in your writing. It'll make a big difference. Okay, thanks.